must face.
Hey guys, it's time to Nefis and chill. Hopefully all of you are staying safe and healthy. In this video today, I'll be showing you the Infinity Dragonknight tank build that you can use for all 4-man PvE content, including Dragonstone Arena and Black Rose Prison. This is probably my favorite tank build I've ever theory crafted for the Dragonknight tank role so far, and it's inspired by an earlier iteration of a Dragonknight tank build I made a while ago. I also made by the name of the Battery tank that was made specifically for veteran Dragonstone Arena and veteran Black Rose Prison. Before we get to the rest of the video, you guys have been awesome showing up to my Twitch, where we recently got partnered and supporting my content creation for YouTube. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel yet to get the latest ESO news, information, builds, and guides, please consider doing so, as it means a lot to me. The focus of the Infinity build will be on all 4-man content, increasing group DPS, complete crowd control, and, most importantly, infinite sustain, without any exaggeration attached to that. While you can tank with any race with this build, I do recommend Imperial, Nord, Argonian, and Orsimer. To showcase the Infinity build, I chose Nord. Take a look at the stats for the Infinity build. We have Nord, 64 points into health, and the 64 points into health leaves us with 18,337 max magicka, 40,595 max health, and 21,165 max stamina. These are really good stats actually for a tank, for pretty much anything you can name, including that Black Rose Prison. Our magicka recovery is going to be 1,031. Health recovery is sort of insignificant, however, it's almost 1,000, which is going to tick every 2 seconds, which is okay. Stamina recovery, pretty low, but we won't really need that. In terms of resistances, this is unbuffed, and Nords do get the racial passive of additional mitigation from Rugged. And if you want to see it buffed, it's gonna end up near 28,000 spell resistance and 24,000 physical, at least on the back bar. On the front part with the shield, it's gonna go up to 31,000 spell resistance and almost 28,000 physical resistance. This is more than enough for any 4-man content right now in the Elder Scrolls Online. You name it. Veteran, normal, doesn't matter. Hard modes. In terms of the Mundus Stone, we picked the Atronach, and we'll go into that later. And in terms of the food, I do still highly suggest the Bewitched Sugar Skulls. You can try Witch Wonders Potent Brew, but for this build in particular, Sugar Skulls is going to give you the most max stats for health, stamina, and magicka, which you will need to fulfill the infinite sustain part of this build. Now we're going to be taking a look at the item sets, traits, enchantments, and so on. The monster set I highly recommend for this build is going to be 2-piece Symphony of Blades. Symphony of Blades is a really OP monster set to have, especially in 4-man content. It's used in trials, but between multiple supports. But however, in 4-man content, just because there's only 3 other people, the Symphony of Blades sustain it offers, it's incredible. It's pretty much proccing all the time on at least one other person in the group. This is very noticeable, especially in Black Rose Prison, and all the DPS I ran with as a tank when I'm running this have no sustain issues. So this is fulfilling a external part of giving sustain towards the group. You don't want to just give sustain to yourself with this build. Unfortunately, Symphony of Blades does not affect your own sustain, but this is more for the group utility. If you're having trouble surviving, you can use Earthward. And Earthward with this build will be more than fine. And I do highly recommend Earthward as well if you are lacking in survivability or if you're learning content. For sure, take Earthward over Symphony of Blades. However, Symphony of Blades is really strong with this build. In terms of the trait, on the head and shoulders, we have Infused with a prismatic enchantment on it. And we also do have a sturdy piece on the shoulder with a max magicka glyph on it. This can be, the small piece glyphs can be changed to whatever you need. Sometimes I may like more max magicka, sometimes I may more max health or stamina. It really depends on your attributes, race, and so forth. So the 64 points we mentioned earlier, this will also depend in terms of allocation. Keep note, again, as I said earlier, we're showcasing the Nord race with the Infinity build. The first 5-piece set is going to be Untitled. It doesn't have to be perfected Untitled, it can be just regular Untitled. The only difference between the perfected and non-perfected Untitled is just the maximum health bonus that it grants on the 5-piece bonus. That's pretty much it. If you want more health though, you want to go for perfected, which can only be attainable from Veteran Sunspire instances. You don't have to do hard moves, you can just do Veteran Sunspire instances. However, you can still get away with non-perfected Untitled easy, no problem. Untitled is a really strong tanking set. It basically rewards tanks for doing their job. Not only does it give passive mitigation through minor ages, which is not too significant, but still, it's still passive mitigation. It's free, so why not? You take 5% less damage from dungeon, trial, and arena monsters. It's calculated in a way where it's not incredibly significant, but it's still free mitigation. 2-piece bonus, you're gonna have maximum health, which is great for any tank build. Free health, why not? Maximum stamina, and maximum stamina, again, great bonus to have as a tank. This is why sets like Battalion Defender are so popular in other tank builds. And of course the 5-piece bonus, when you taunt an enemy, you can give yourself and up to 11 other group members minor courage for 15 seconds, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 129. This effect can occur once every 8 seconds. And a similar set to this is going to be the Cyrodiil set, Powerful Assault. Which is, if you don't know what Powerful Assault is, it's basically you proc Powerful Assault on 3 to 4 other people by, activating an assault skill from the Alliance War skill line, like Vigor, Caltrops, or whatever. The thing about Powerful Assault though, it can be expensive to maintain in terms of uptime. Yes, it does give more weapon and spell damage than Untitled. However, Untitled is very, very easy. All you have to do is taunt, and you're already taunting as a tank. And it has a pretty far range in comparison to Powerful Assault. Plus, it's just guaranteed. It's just guaranteed, so why not? And again, this is classified as Minor Courage, which will stack with the next set we'll be talking about before we get to the next set. The traits and enchantments overall on the 7 pieces of body: infused on head, infused on chest, infused on legs, sturdy on everything else. And you'll notice that the rest of the sturdy pieces we're going to have 3 health enchantments on it, and the chest, legs, and head are going to be all tri-static glyphs or prismatic glyphs that you can make with the Acacia runes. For the secondary 5-piece set, which we'll be talking about, it's going to be oTremors. And oTremors is a really strong set as well, used for both 4-man content and dungeons. oTremors is going to give us minor ages. Now note that the minor ages from Untitled and oTremors do not stack, so this does not give you 10% mitigation total. They do not stack. oTremors is going to give you a free magic recovery bonus, which is not bad at all. Now, you'll notice that the 4th piece and the 5th piece bonuses are not active, and that's because we're in the Sword and Board bar. Once we swap to the Staff bar, which is a lightning staff by the way, you'll notice that the 4th and 5th pieces are activated, and this is because staves are counted as 2-piece item set weapons. And we're going to get an additional magic recovery, and again, you don't have to have perfected. The only difference between perfected and non-perfected oTremors staves or item sets is the 5th piece bonus, granting an additional 1000 some max magicka. Not a big deal, again, that's really up to you. Now the 5th piece bonus is what we want to look at. Casting abilities that leave an effect on the ground in combat will create a circle of might for 10 seconds. You and your allies standing in the circle gain major courage for 30 seconds. This increases your weapon and spell damage by 258. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. A lot of people misunderstand oTremors as being too hard to put onto dungeon pugs or groups or people that are moving around quite a lot. The opposite is actually true. I mean, it's a pretty low cooldown. Every 10 seconds you can put down a circle on people. You don't necessarily expect them or need to expect them to come hit the circle. Neither do they have to actually stay in the circle. They can just touch the circle, just like a little pinky toe, get out, and they'll have the Major Courage buff for 30 seconds until the next time. 10 seconds after, you can just proc it on them again. Very easy to keep up, free damage, and the scaling in regards to weapon and spell damage for Minor Courage and Major Courage is going to go up. It's not just 258 weapon or spell damage, it's not just 129 weapon and spell damage. It's going to scale up with DPS stats. So it's really, really important to have both of these sets for this build, because it's just free damage. And for the third item set piece, and this is going to get really interesting here, is going to be the Asylum defensive position set. And this is where the infinite sustain part comes into play here. For the Asylum perfected weapons, for Sword and Board, again, just like Yonakrin, just like Olorime, you don't need the perfected. The only difference between the Asylum perfected Sword and Shield set and the non-perfected is you restore like 300 or so less max magicka if you reflect or absorb a spell projectile with defensive posture. And if that expires without reflecting or absorbing a spell projectile, you restore like 3,600 some max magicka instead of 4,000. So not a huge difference. So again, you can get away with non-perfected Yonakrin, non-perfected Olorime, non-perfected Asylum. And again, you'll notice that when you reflect or absorb a spell projectile with defensive posture, you restore 2,000 magicka. Okay, so if your skill goes off or is triggered by a projectile, you get a free 2,000 max magicka for spending stamina. If your defensive posture expires without doing anything, and actually you can trigger this before it even absorbs or reflects a projectile, you restore a free 4,000 max magicka. That's a lot. That is an insane amount of regen per second if you calculate it, and in conjunction with the stats that this build offers, like the very comfortable health level of 40.5k, along with the very comfortable level of 18,000 max magicka, and the fact that you're Dragonknight with your passives, the fact that you have over 20,000 max stamina, you're gonna have infinite sustain. And I'll explain how this works, but before we do, in terms of traits, for Olorime jewelry, I have 1 infused on necklace and 2 healthy on the rings. For enchantments, we don't really need to stack match recovery, because again, the Asylum Sword and Board is going to help us with that. We do have stamina cost reduction on the infused, and we do have another stamina cost reduction on the healthy. The last enchantment on the jewelry is going to be magicka cost reduction. The stamina cost reduction jewelry is going to help us maintain defensive posture, plus a couple other things, and it does affect your roll dodge cost, even though it doesn't say anything about that. In terms of the traits for the Sword and Board and the staff, for the Sword and Board, you want a charged one-hander with a charged weapon enchantment on it. And what this will do is going to guarantee putting concussion on, or try to guarantee putting concussion on your target, which with your lightning wall will help set off balance. And in terms of the shield trait, it can be whatever you need. It can be infused, it can be sturdy. I personally like well fitted on my shield for Black Rose Prison, Dragonstar Arena, or the harder DLC Dungeon Hard modes. And of course, we're also going to have a prismatic glyph on here just to sort of offset some of the stat imbalances you can have sometimes on certain builds with 3 prismatic enchants instead of 4. This will only be active on your front bar. In terms of the lightning staff trait and enchantment, Crusher, very, very standard enchantment to have for most tanks, and you want to ensure that the infused trait is on the lightning staff to boost that Crusher enchantment value. More penetration for the group, better. And again, this is primarily for bosses, and of course it can affect elite mobs as well, or any other enemy. Now, in terms of the skills, I'll be explaining this, and I'll be going back to the item sets to explain why we do what we do. In terms of skills, we do have Unrelenting Grip. This is your bread and butter as a Dragonknight tank. A lot of other classes, well, pretty much every other class actually, needs to use Silver Leash from the Fighter's Guild skill line. And this costs stamina. And as you can see, as you can tell if you have already tried out tanking, or if you're an experienced tank, stamina is a very valuable resource to spend. Especially when you're pulling in multiple adds to stack things in a dungeon or the arenas. I mean, it can be painful. But the fact that the Dragonknight class has Unrelenting Grip, which is magicka, and the fact if you make a mistake, oops, I can't pull that yet, that's CC immunity, or oops, it's an elite ad, I can't pull that anyway, or a boss, you just get all the magicka costs refunded. It's a very safe skill to use, it's a very fun skill to use, it gives you a major expedition, which increases your movement speed by 30%, which can be helpful for certain arena stages in Dragonstar Arena or Black Rose Prison. And that's pretty much it. This is a really great crowd control tool. Every Dragonknight tank should definitely consider using this, especially for the arenas, because stacking can be important, improves your group's time and so forth. Ransack, now this can be Ransack or Pierce Armor. If you're going to go Ransack, definitely recommend having Elemental Drain at hand, especially if your group's going to be mostly magicka or everyone's magicka DPS and they need Elemental Drain. Now, you've noticed probably by now, you only crit in oTremors, especially oTremors. oTremors is typically a healer set. So why is a tank wearing a healer set? It's because most groups tend to play without a healer these days. Whether that's Fortune or Unfortune, that's entirely subject. But that is a matter of fact for a lot of groups. They tend to just take tank, 3 DPS, and demolish something like Fungal Grotto 2 or City of Ash, because most of the time you don't really need a healer. And the oTremors is going to pretty much replace that healer in terms of giving major courage to the group. But again, Elemental Drain is also going to be something you can also do as a tank to sort of be a pseudo healer or pseudo support healer for the group in terms of providing certain buffs and debuffs. And again, the Ransack is more for the minor protection. Dragonknights don't have an easy access besides the Sigil Guild skill Undo, Temporal Guard, which gives minor protection while slotted on the front bar or the back bar, wherever you have it slotted. And that's kind of a downside because you can't slot both because you have other important ultimates to potentially use. Otherwise, it's up to you whether you want to pick Ransack or Pierce Armor. Igneous Shield. Now, Igneous Shield and the other morph, Fragmented Shield. The Fragmented Shield morph gives you 6 seconds of major mending, but sort of a low shield value. That's more used for PvP, from my experience. Igneous Shield has a higher shield value, but only grants 3 seconds of major mending. There aren't too many areas within the game where you need 6 seconds of major mending, especially as a tank. So it is really up to you if you want to take Fragmented Shield, if you feel like you need it. But Igneous Shield can be noticeable in terms of being a time buffer. And what by time buffer I mean, well, you'll notice that it does certainly mitigate some damage, which gives you some time to react besides healing yourself. So it gives you time to react. In terms of Heroic Slash, we definitely want this for the ultimate generation granted by Minor Heroism. Grants us 1 ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 12 seconds. Also, it does minor maim targets you put this skill on, reducing their damage done to you and the group by 15% for 12 seconds. It's a very significant debuff to have. Ah yes, of course, the last skill, Defensive Stance. And you'll notice that if you compare my tooltip cost to perhaps your tooltip cost on your tanks, it's significantly lower. It's almost 3,100 stamina, and that's due again to the infused stamina cost reduction glyph plus the extra stamina cost reduction glyph. Very pretty handy to have, and this will tie in with how we use a Sun and Perfected Shield. Let me explain the infinite sustain part of it, because I think a lot of you will be interested more in that than the other things I talked about so far. The Dragonknight tank class, or just the Dragonknight class in general, has 2 passives that are very notable for both PvE and PvP. For Helping Hands, the passive from Earth and Heart, When you cast a non-stamina costing Earth and Heart ability, you restore 990 stamina. So everything here, if you cast it, gives you stamina back except Stone Giant. This is huge. Think of it as a recycling system. So you as a Dragonknight tank have both access to magicka and stamina. Let's say you're running out of stamina. What do? You Ignis Shield. As you can see, even while I'm holding block on the stamina bar, and you can't regenerate stamina. I'm gonna hold block. As you can see, my stamina is not recovering because I'm holding block, but you can still gain stamina back through block by using an Earth and Heart ability like Ignis Shield or Ash Cloud or whatever, and that's significant. That's really significant. It helps you sustain so much as a tank, and this is why Dragonknight is considered still the king of tanks in PvE. Now, how does this tie in with Battle Roar? Well, Battle Roar is also an extra thing. When you cast an ultimate ability, you restore 53 health, 46 magic, and 46 stamina for each point of the ultimate's cost. So if I blow a horn, that's a 250 ultimate cost. If I do a magma, I get significant resource returns on not just my health, but also my max magic and stamina. So rotating, for a lot of tanks, rotating your potion that grants, like a tripod, that grants you health, magic, and stamina back immediately in rotation with your ultimate as a Dragonknight tank, it's already a lot of sustain you can manage. It gives you a lot of leeway in terms of resource management. Where defensive stance comes in here now, and I do recommend this morph, not the other morph, because the defensive stance morph actually gives you more passives while slotted. So the amount of damage you can block in terms of mitigation is increased by 10%, which can be significant, and the cost of blocking is also reduced by 10%, which is a little less significant but still noticeable. And the other morph, Absorb Missile, does not have these passives. Now, this ties in with the Asylum Sword and Board. So as you noticed as I was demonstrating the Ignis Shield, let's say, I've spent all my Ignis Shields up for max magicka up. What do? Okay, I can put this up. I can wait the full duration, and magicka will come back just like that in a huge chunk. Meanwhile, my magic recovery is still active, ticking every 2 seconds, so that will help out with my magic sustain. Think about what happened. You, as a Dragonknight tank, can convert, like a recycling system, magicka into stamina. Now, with this build, you can convert your stamina into magicka. So it's infinite resources basically. As long as you can handle resource management to even a decent degree, this is insane. I've had a lot of fun with this so far on both live and BTS. It's pretty hilarious, and I'll be talking about what's on the back bar because that'll play an important role in infinite sustain with the Infinity tank build. In terms of the front bar ultimate, doesn't really matter if you have Magma Shell on the front bar or back bar, whatever is more comfortable for you. Aggressive Horn is going to be a significant damage boost to most of your groups. And again, you're stacking damage for your groups. You have Yonakrin, you have Olorime, and now you have a Horn. You have Major Minor Courage plus Major Force, which grants critical damage bonus by 15% for 10 seconds. That's a lot, and also offers max magic and max stamina by 10% for 30 seconds to everybody affected by the Horn. It has a 20-meter radius. Talons, Choking Talons is almost irreplaceable as a Dragonknight tank. There are some places where you don't need it, but most places it's like, why not? It roots ranged adds that try to run away once you chain them in. It controls melee adds trying to get at your teammates. It also afflicts minor maim AoE form. So with Heroic Slash you have to target each and every person or enemy. With Talons, you just gotta press a button and 6 of them will be rooted / minor maim. And of course it offers a synergy as well if they are actually rooted to nearby group members, which they can activate. It's called the Ignite synergy, and that deals magic damage to all the enemies held by the Talons, and Of course, the damage of the synergy does not scale with the caster of the skill. It scales with the stats of the person synergizing. So that Ignite tooltip you guys see right there, 4,800 whatever magic damage, that seems like whatever. But that's my tooltip, that's not the DPS tooltip. That's going to be significantly more for when the DPS synergizes it, rather than me synergizing it. The Inner Rage skill is a magic morph of the Undaunted base taunt, which also costs magicka, but Inner Rage actually guarantees providing the Radiate synergy. And again, that also scales off of your DPS stats, not your stats. So good to have is a ranged taunt. You already have a ranged CC ability to pull in ads. And now you have something that may guarantee you taunting certain bosses or certain elite ads and stack them appropriately. We have Blockade of Storms, and this again plays into, you know, having a charged weapon with a shock enchantment on it. You'll basically proc concussion on them, but once the target is concussed, you set wall down, and they'll be off balanced, and off balance will have a direct correlation with the Exploiter perk from the Ritual Tree, and a lot of DPS, both magicka and stamina DPS, will have about at least 75 points into the Ritual Tree, and that gets unlocked at 75 points. And that increases their damage done against off-balance enemies by 10%. So in addition to Minor Courage, Major Courage, Sustain for the group, Sustain for yourself, which is almost infinite, plus off-balance, you're providing a shit ton of damage already. Another skill that's going to help us sustain infinitely is Balance, actually. Now, let's say you're running low on both stamina and max magicka. I'm really trying my hardest to actually get down here, and it's pretty hard, as you can see. Okay, and we are running out of max magicka. Stamina, getting pretty low, right? What do? You balance, you get magicka back, get some stamina back, and then you just kind of get back to a level where you're comfortable using defensive stance. It's really neat. It's really cool. It pretty much completes the Dragonknight tanking class as a complete recycling factory rather than just recycling, you know, one way. And of course, the last skill on the back bar is going to be Green Dragon Blood. Green Dragon Blood is going to provide Major Fortitude, Major Endurance, and Minor Vitality. The Minor Vitality is the more important part, which increases your healing received by 8% for 23 seconds. And of course, that stacks with the Draconic passives of you know, Burning Heart. While a Draconic power ability is active, your healing received is increased by 12%. That stacks with your Minor Vitality. That can stack with other sources of, like Major Vitality, or other healing received sources like CP, like Quick Recovery. So pretty great to have, and of course is an amazing burst heal. And this of course is going to scale off of how much health you're missing. A lot of people, a lot of mistakes I see a lot of Dragonknight tank users make is when their health is like at 60% or something, or 70%, they activate Dragon Blood. And it's a really weak heal, as you can see. But once you get down to like 50, 40, 30%, you'll notice that the heal can be much more significant, because it scales off of how much health you're missing, not how much health you have. See that? 10,000 versus like 2,000 or something earlier. Magma Shell. Magma Shell is a very OP skill. You can survive a lot of mechanics, a lot of boss heavies, a lot of stuff actually, because it caps damage at 3% of your max health, and also grants a damage shield to your to you and other allies within I believe a certain range. I think it's like 8 meters, but it only lasts for 12 seconds. This is basically your oh shit, it's an emergency button, and you'll pretty much be guaranteed to survive almost through everything. And you know, no worries if you activate it and you don't do a horn, that's fine, because again, you'll get enough resources back from the Battle Roar passive, and then you're pretty much going to repeat the process. You're going to be tanking almost forever, regardless of how long the fight is, regardless of how bad the group DPS may be. This build should help you get things along. Now, in terms of alternative skills you can look at, there are some situations where you may need to use Fossilize. Ruins of Mazatun ads come up. Reflective Scale can be really OP to like protect the plate. It grants you immunity to snares and immobilizations. Also absorbs projectiles by 50%. This is really useful to have in like Fang Lair, even in trial instances like Rakat's Dark Barrage and Veteran Maw of Lorconch. So there's a lot to work with. The reason why we went with Balance also, not just because of the sustain issue, is the Hardened Armor is like 20 seconds. And Balance is going to give you like almost 30 seconds of Major War, Major Resolve. That's significant. That's an extra 10 seconds where we don't need to worry about our armor resistances. And everything else almost kinda from the Ardent Flame skill line is kinda irrelevant. I mean, you can do Engulfing Flames if there's absolutely no magic decay in your group. Can be helpful, even though you don't get the full 10% value anymore. Noxious Breath can also be helpful as a AoE Major Fracture. It is cheaper to use than Razor Caltrips. If you note the tooltip difference, 2,407 stamina versus 1,793 stamina. So this can be useful too. But again, that depends on what you and your group want to do. Specifically, more organized groups for like Dragonstar or Black Rose Prison. In terms of CP, we want 81 into Ironclad for the Steed, 56 Hardy, 56 Elemental Defender, 66 Thick Skin, and 11 Quick Recovery. This works for any piece of dungeon content, any hard mode, in any 4-man, Black Rose Prison, Dragonstar Arena. 51 Warlord, 16 Bashing Focus, 64 Arcanist, 16 Tenacity, 51 Tumbling, 72 Shadow Ward. This will help you pretty much sustain not just the build, but also pretty much handle almost every situation you'll encounter as a tank in most dungeons and most 4-man content. 64 Blessed, 56 Elf Ward. This is going to help with just your healing done with Dragon Blood and so forth. 28 points to Master at Arms, 2 into Physical Weapon Expert. Grants you access to Riposte and Retaliation. Riposte is the more important one. It's basically just free damage that can occur once every 5 seconds, so why not? And we have 56 Dominator, 64 Precise Strikes, mainly to unlock the Last Stand perk. When you fall below 20% health, you gain Major Heroism, granting 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 9 seconds. This can occur once every 20 seconds, so Major Heroism, 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds, versus Minor Heroism, which occurs every 1.5 seconds for 12 seconds. And that's only 1 ultimate. This can be a lifesaver, particularly for Dragonknight tanks, because again, Battle Roar. Let's say you're really close to blowing your horn or your magma, and you're running out of resources, right? Battle Roar, once you use an ultimate, and that Major Heroism kicks in, or once your Major Heroism kicks in, from having such a low health, 20% falling below 20% health, that perk's gonna kick in. You're gonna get your ultimate almost immediately, and then you're just gonna ultimate, and you're good to go. Back to tanking, back to infinitely sustaining. That's pretty much it, guys. I really like this build. Hopefully you guys like the build too. Let me know if you try it out and if you enjoy it. Let me know if you have any more questions down in the comments below about the build. And yeah, please do stay safe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.